Any idea what this is? 29216? This is the number of Olympic medals that have been dished out since its first inception. A very tough game. I'm pretty sure you can name at least one medalist, especially from India. 5760. Any idea what this is? This is the number of people who have stood on top of Everest since its first ascent. Even tougher, people die doing this, right? But I'm pretty sure you can name at least one Everester, especially from India. A very small number, 269, even tougher. Any idea what that is? I'll come to that. My love for music got me to this lyrics: to educate is to draw out what is within. Are we not all made the same under the skin? What Akala is saying is, we're all constructed the same, we all have the same capabilities. And I agree. There are 5 senses that we all have, that to hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. Put the sense of smell and taste together, and you come up with this word called palate. It's the most subjective, most evolving of all your senses. What you like as a child, you don't like when you grow up. It depends on how much money you have in your pocket and the people you hang out with, canteen meals, isn't it? Your brain is also designed the same way. There's the outer cortex and the inner one. The outer part is where facts, digits, definitions are stored. And this part of your brain can actually learn a language. So if I ask you, where are we? You'll all say we are in an auditorium, watching a TEDx speech, sitting on a chair, unlike me. Enjoy. But the magic happens on the inner part. This is where all the emotions, memories, sensations are stored. And anatomically, it is impossible to teach a language to this part of your brain. That's the reason why it is difficult to propose to somebody. It is difficult to tell that you're in pain and suffering. Music is an emotion. That's the reason why they say it has no language, no boundary, and you might have seen yourself groove to the sound of a song that you don't know the lyrics of. Despacito, I still have no idea what that song is all about. However, your palate is pretty much the same. How do you tell somebody what a mango tastes like? How do you tell somebody what a rose smells of? Right? But what if in case your palate actually had a language? And what if in case there was classrooms where it could be taught, there were summits and there were medals that could be awarded for that? That'll be interesting, isn't it? So welcome to the toughest exam on the planet, which only 269 people have ever passed, called the Master Sommelier Examination. Some of them are already dead, not because it is a life-threatening examination where age happened to people, right? I am a certified sommelier, not a master sommelier. You might not be able to name even one of them, but even importantly, there's not even a single one born out of India, right? Sommelier is a French word for a winemaker, and this is where the problem begins. How do you become a sommelier in a country which is not on the wine belt, which does not produce wines, at least not known for producing wines, and even more importantly, where the per capita consumption is less than a teaspoon even today? Who needs a sommelier just for a teaspoon, right? Just to give you a small little background, I was the black sheep of the family. I always wanted to choose things which were a little out of the box. And my teachers always told me, "Beta, tumhara kuch nahi ho payega." More importantly, there were 2 people in my life who told me, "We trust you, we know what your future are," and they are sitting here, my elder siblings. And what they said was, no, don't clap. What they said was, "You are bound to fail." So in 2007, when I passed my hospitality school, my very humble, sober father asked me, "Beta, karna kya life hai? What do you want to become?" And I had no idea how to tell this middle-class government employee, Gagan Sharma man, right, where alcohol was not very prevalent, that I wanted to become a sommelier, right? So when he sat me down and he asked me this question, I wrote it on a piece of paper and I gave it to him, that in 5 years I'll be a certified sommelier. He had no idea, so he took that paper, read it and crushed it and kept it in his pocket and said, "Best of luck, we'll see." In 2011, I applied for this course called the Certified Sommelier Examination in the UK. And you know, I asked him what the syllabus is. Because generally to a syllabus there is a book, to a book there is a guide, to that guide there is a punji. And you mug all of that up and you write alif lega stories in the paper and you pass the examination, isn't it? But the response that came gave me an understanding that if you can eat it, drink it or serve it, you need to know this, right? Even to begin with this, let me tell you, wine studies are obnoxiously boring. The drinking part is very fun, right? But the study part is very difficult. We have 3 examinations. First, the theory. We have to study chemistry, biology, physics, botany, soil, climate, geography, pests, diseases, and whatnot. And then we have to study Spanish, Italian, German, French, which we know we won't be able to speak any which way. Then comes the service exam, and then comes the tasting, right? You know when you guys call for an Uber or an Ola and the GPS pin drops exactly where you guys are standing, not across the street, not in the neighborhood? Well, we get a glass of wine and we have to taste it and drop that GPS pin somewhere on the world map. Not in the country, not in a region, not in a sub-region, not in a village, but on a hill. Sometimes on a parcel of a hill which is called Grand Cru or Premier Cru and wines, right? In the examination, there could be thousands of grape varieties from which the wine could be made, but we have to pick up that one grape variety from which that wine is made, right? Not just that, if it is kept in an oak barrel, where did the wood come from? How was it conditioned? What was the size of the barrel, etc., etc. And then we have to be a historian and go back in time and say, in that region, what was the soil, what was the sunlight, what was the rain in that year, and pick up the year in which the grapes were harvested, right? And I still remember when I went to the UK for the first time to give a tasting examination, I was standing outside the examination hall, it was extremely cold, and I sneezed, my nose got blocked, and I could not taste anything, and I failed the exam. I came back, and my parents asked me, what happened? I said, oh, I was waiting, I sneezed, and I lost the exam. She said, what is the superstition? Ye kya vishwas hai, right? How do you tell somebody that you sneeze and you lose, right? But anyway, I passed this examination in 2012 and I became amongst the first certified sommeliers in the country. And now the onus was on me to change the way people look at alcohol and wines in the country. I started studying further for my examinations and then I realized if wine is a philosophy, if wine is an emotion is in the inner part of the brain which cannot understand language, what am I doing sitting in my bedroom studying these encyclopedias and notes? You can't sit in Delhi and be learning about wines of Italy. Because if wine is something, it is the extension of a man's philosophy. And the extension of a man's philosophy is designed by the environment that they are in. History, culture, gastronomy, family values, financial values, the region, what it has gone through in terms of wars, pandemics, epidemics, politics, and all of that. So I decided that I wanted to travel and go and see what is happening there. You know, it's like standing in the middle of Chandni Chowk, during Jama Masjid here, right now during Ramzan, you can't describe that emotion to somebody, right? As I started traveling, I started learning more about countries, more about philosophy, more about humans, and my understanding of wines became better. Let me give you an example. I was in Spain, and 2 wines were given to me. And when we taste wines, we actually keep our head down and we keep writing the tasting notes. We don't talk to each other, otherwise placebo can happen. And I can influence what your idea of that liquid is. But I was making faces, right? Very obnoxious, very quirky faces. And the winemaker, she asked me, she said, what's going on? Right? And I said, I'm creating this analogy in my head. She said, tell me. I said, I think this wine is made by a very old person, and this wine is made by a fairly young person. Maybe 60 plus, under 30. She said, what? How can you do that? I said, I taste wines and I create images in my mind. I can draw that for you. So this was a wine which had a lot of wisdom in it, right? It was almost like a man sitting in a British-style room with wooden panels and leather-bound books in a rocking chair with a book in one hand and a cigar in the other, with a glass of cognac sitting on the side, extreme calm in the room. If he was to speak, he would speak less, but he would speak pearls of wisdom. The other wine had no wisdom whatsoever, but a lot of power and energy, right? It was almost like in that room, a young girl, maybe 4 years, 5 years old, wearing a frock, holding a balloon, clutching her favorite doll on this side, walks in, disturbs the energy of the room, and yells for attention. And she said, you know what, this wine is made by my father, he's 60 plus, this wine is made by me, I'm 28. And I realized that day probably I'm on the right track. I came back, started teaching wines, and tried to make them, a little more interesting. Right? And the idea was very simple. I wanted to give examples to people in India which were relatable from India. But for that again, I had to travel India. So in 2016, once I was done with my studies, I embarked on this journey and I visited about 55 different UNESCO World Heritage sites, which became a Limca book record as well. But that's not the important part. I know, thank you for that. But that's not what the important part is. I learned about India and I realized why India is incredible. why the Western world looks at India and says, man, this is where we go to find about our own self, right? So let me give you a few examples. Chola temples. A man creates this temple without the knowledge of science and technology, without any brick and mortar, and the carvings are still so fresh as if they were done yesterday. His son, a few decades later, with better technology, better understanding, creates another temple, but lesser in height than his father's temple. You know why? Matter of respect for your elders. And this is what happens when a wine comes in front of us which are older than us. Do you think we are worthy of deciphering it? The wine also looks at us and says, Acha, tum karoge. You're going to decipher me. Do you have really the wisdom to do that? I also went to Khajuraho and I realized Kama Sutra is not about sex. Kama Sutra is about having complete power over your brain and your senses. And that is what we do when we do our examinations and drop that pin on the world map. We need to declutter from our mind and rely just on our senses for the next 5 minutes. Right? I also went to Konark Sun Temple. There are 23,264 statues precisely. That's the number of breaths you take in a day. Every breath is a philosophy. And that's what we do when we taste wines. We sniff them, we swirl them, we slurp them on our palate, right? And we play with oxygen, right? But I also tried to learn more about what is the influence of alcohol in India. And this is where you guys will get a little surprised. In the Vedas, there is this chapter of Samudra Manthan where the gods and the demons, they churn the ocean looking for an amrut, right? The antidote for human survival. A lady comes out with a kalash in her hand carrying amrut. And this lady is called Varuni. In India, we do not have gods of alcohol, we only have goddesses of alcohol. Did you know that? The play of ladies in our world, right? Chances are this amrut was alcohol. Because earlier in the days, water, air, food, everything was contaminated and the only way that you could have survived was by drinking alcohol. Look at COVID. The only way that you survive was by slapping sanitizers on your hand and see, we guys are still here. Right? So the chances are the alcohol, which is called Dawa Daru, was the reason why we guys are still sitting here as civilizations. In Ramayana, there is a mention of Maurya. In Mahabharata, this epic scene of Chirharan is where everybody is intoxicated and chances are the alcohol that they were drinking was called Basya. Right? At a time when religion is all divided, alcohol can actually reunite us. Not just that, I also wanted to learn more about Mughal history. This is a picture from the tomb of Itamadullah. Shehzada Salim, we all know, was a frivolous alcoholic. His wife Noor Jahan, right, was so pretty that when she would drink a red wine, you could actually see that going through her throat. It wasn't said for Mumtaz, it was said for Noor Jahan. And that was the tomb of her father. And you can very easily see there are pictures of alcohol on it, right? Even more, in Islam, drinking alcohol is prohibited. It is called dozat. Then how can Ghalib say, Sharab peene de masjid mein baith ke, ya wo jagah bata jahan khuda nahi? How could Faiz Ahmed Faiz say, Aaye kuch abr, kuch sharab aaye, uske baad chahe azab aaye? Right? Do we really understand that? And that is when I realized I think I need to unlearn and learn more about India. And to do that, I turned to nature. Because at the end of the day, nature is the one that teaches you what is balance in life. Right? So to learn balance, very simply, every wine stands on 4 pillars, right? Acid, alcohol, tannins, and flavors. You take one away, much like this tripod, it will still stand. Take 2 away, it will fall. Similarly, in our human lives as well, we have pillars, and they could be different for you. For me, that is health, clearly not. Happiness, love, and relationships, right? And to do that, to create that balance, I realized that I need to declutter. And I adopted the life of minimalism. I turned to nature, started doing trekking, and from there I went on to mountaineering. You might go to an airport and pick up your trolley and say 15 kilos, bloody heavy. The first day we were given these backpacks and they were 35 kilos. For 30 days we had to put them on our back and climb mountains army style. And then you realize, I can carry a t-shirt less. I can wear it for 10 days, nobody's watching anyway. A dirty t-shirt, mud on your face, unkempt beard, unshaven head is a memory, a story to be told, right? If in case you go to the mountains and you require this much amount of toothpaste for 10 days, but you carry an entire tube, you are putting weight on your own self, you will mar your own experiences. So much so, all of us are in a generation where we like to receive likes, views, comments. I've given that up as well. You'll be surprised to know I don't have a TV at home, I don't have Amazon, no Netflix, no Hotstar, no Woot, nothing of all that stuff. Surprised, right? People like that exist. But what nature taught me was humility, and wines also do the same. So just to give you a data, in 2020, 2,600 crore liters of wine was made on the planet. That is about 3,700 crore bottles. Now you get about a glass in front of you, and you have to pick from all of these liquid. What are the chances that you will pass? That's why you have only 269 people alive who can do that, right? Because you are bound to fail, you learn humility, and you also learn optimism. The opposite of success is not failure, it is trying. The opposite of good is not bad, it is existence. So here, I'm telling you, chances are your sommelier is also going to mess up. So go ahead, mess up yourself, right, and learn wines as well. But before you go, it is my responsibility to tell you about 5 wines so that you can earn bragging rights in front of your family, in front of your friends, okay? So, first one, when you come back home, what do you guys drink? We'll pick your wine of choice. So if you like a gin and tonic, you like something light and crisp, pick up a Sauvignon Blanc or a Chenin Blanc. If you like your cocktails like Negronis and Sazeracs and Old Fashioned, pick up a wine like a Cabernet or a Shiraz, which is alcohol. Second, if you go in a family gathering and your scores are not good, you're not getting a job, you're not earning well, and your age is to get married but you're not getting married, take the attention away from you, okay? Carry a wine which will make everybody happy, and chances are carry more bottles of that. So an off-dry Riesling, a Viognier, a Gewürztraminer, a Pinot Noir, a rosé wine is a good idea. You will go on and you will get jobs as well. Never ever try to impress your boss. Never. Okay? You will mess up. If in case you're going to a boss's party, carry a bottle of wine which has no complexity to it. Don't get a Barolo or a Burgundy or a Bordeaux or anything. They'll ask you questions you won't be able to answer. So the simple idea is, carry a wine which is made in a country which only makes one wine. Right? Australian Chardonnay, Australian Shiraz, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, Chilean Merlot, Californian Zinfandel. You're sorted. If you go on a date, you will be nervous. So buy the most alcoholic wine on the menu. Just ask the server which one has the most alcohol and drink it. It will calm you down, it will give you confidence, and chances are you will end up being funny and score a second date. Well, it's not a guarantee, okay? And finally, if you go to a housewarming party or a friend's party, always carry a wine that you want to drink, okay? And always carry 2 bottles. You will end up drinking that bottle that day, and the second one is a memory for them. So, go ahead, pick up a glass of wine, smell it, sniff it, travel through it. Next time when you do that, close your eyes and try to create a visual in your mind. And I can tell you this, wines will not fail. Thank you.